What up, ref leaders? Welcome back to my channel. It's Monday morning in Georgetown, Guyana. It's about 6 a.m., 3 minutes to 6. And we are on Vincentian Road, heading north. We're on our morning run as usual. Just going past the Camp in Guyana. That's the army base here in Georgetown. Usually this time of day, I encounter dozens and dozens of soldiers exercising on the road, on the walking path where I am right now. Usually there are like dozens and dozens, 50, 60 soldiers running. This morning, Camp in Guyana is quiet. Nobody, not even a mouse is stirring. Everybody busy making defensive plans for the invasion of Venezuela. Guys, a lot of people have been commenting on the video I made, saying that I'm an alarmist, I'm making people nervous, I'm spreading misinformation. All of that, guys, you will find out is absolutely bogus nonsense. The fact is that Venezuela is holding a referendum in 2 weeks to decide whether to invade Guyana, and we know that decision has already been made. And I've actually shown you in previous videos, if you go back to March, that the Guyanese army, the Guyana Defense Force, has been doing joint operations with the US military at Camp Stevenson since March. I think it was March this year or it was March last year. You can go back, check my videos, check the shorts and the videos in my history, and you will see that I made a video back in spring, either this year or last year, where I attended the army Vendors Day, right, where they introduce how the army does business. You know, if you wanted to supply services or products to the army, you need to become an official vendor. And I attended one of those vendors days back in March. That for you is evidence that the Guyana Defense Force has been in joint operations with the US military, and these guys are aware of what is going on. In other words, the fact that Venezuela is making a move on Essequibo is not a surprise. It's not catching the military brass by surprise. Morning.
Good morning, Guyana's finest YouTuber.
Oh, thanks. So that's the one. The second point is that I want to make is I'm not going to give you details on what the Guyanese military operation plans are, because that would be disclosing, you know, national security information. But just be aware that this is something that is not taking the military by surprise. It's the politicians who have been cocking up the politicians who have been cocking up the policies, right, on immigration that led us to this situation where Venezuela can now use a Russian playbook to invade Guyana. However, the US military, the US Southern Command, is aware of this move by Venezuela, and so the information I'm giving you is not to panic people but to let people know. So for example, let me give you one of the tenets of the Art of War. You know, the Art of War is a famous Chinese text, and one of the elements in the Art of War, it says, look, the most important element, or one of the most important elements, is the element of surprise. In any war, in any battle, the element of surprise is the most important element that the enemy has. By giving you information, telling you that what Venezuela is planning to do, I am taking away the element of surprise so that Guyanese citizens, Guyanese civilians who are not involved in this conflict can make arrangements to get out of the way, to make sure that they are not caught up in collateral damage, collateral destruction that war brings. So I will continue to give you the information that will help you. If you are a member of this channel, you've signed up for, you have logged on, you have subscribed to this channel, I will continue to give you information that will help you protect yourself in the event of an invasion by Venezuela. So the first thing to know is that the Guyana Defense Force is not surprised, it's not being surprised by this operation. Like I said, Camp Ghana seems dead and empty today. That's because the military is busy making arrangements to respond to Venezuela. All right, so that's what's happening. Now, the last time I was at Timeri, I showed you the airport. I also showed you the new hotel that's being built there. I also showed you, if you go back to the videos that I made at Timeri, where a lot of people were complaining that I call it Timeri Airport. Right there at Timeri, there is the military base called Camp Stevenson's. And that is a military base that is strategically placed near to the airport so that they can use the air strips, the aircraft, to lift Guyanese soldiers and drop them into the jungle. So we are quite aware of how to do the jungle operations, and we have strategic plans to do that. Guyanese military and army and Coast Guard are trained in jungle combat, in jungle warfare, and are paratroopers. Most of them have received paratrooper training, so they're able to parachute into the jungle and begin fighting. So the information I'm giving you guys is not to alarm anybody, but to get people aware and up to speed, because the politicians will have you believe that this is all about politics. It's all about them getting ExxonMobil's money and making themselves and their friends and family wealthy, but that's not what's happening here. We're back on the seawall. This is Kitty seawall. I usually come out here to run. Still about 6:05 in the morning. But let me make this last point. The last point I'm making is, a lot of people have asked about the sovereign wealth fund and how the cash will be spent. And some people continue to make the, really, I call it a very stupid suggestion that Guyana should pay off its debts. Now, Guyana's debts is less than 50% of its GDP, which means the Guyana's debts are somewhere between 2 and 3 billion US dollars. The sovereign wealth fund is about 1.8 billion US dollars in the Federal Reserve Bank in New York. If Guyana pays off its national debt at this time, or at any time, then we do not have cash to respond to an emergency like an invasion by Venezuela, right? So the reason why you don't want to pay off your debts, your national debts, is so that you have money in the bank to respond to an emergency, a flood, a hurricane, an earthquake. All these things require emergency funds. So you want to keep a certain amount of reserve in cash and currency. And that is why Guyana cannot pay off its debts, right? So don't let me hear people arguing again that Guyana should pay off its debts. This is not how wealth management is done, right? So right now, Guyana can use its sovereign wealth fund as collateral, as leverage, so that it can secure 10 times the amount of equivalent products. Let's say we wanted to buy missiles, or we wanted to buy aircrafts, or we wanted to buy ships. These things cost billions of dollars. So Guyana can now use its sovereign wealth fund as leverage to buy 10 times the amount of money we have in the bank. We can borrow against it and pay back from cash flow, right? So for those of you who are still arguing Guyana should pay off its debt, that's nonsense. Please stop it, because Guyana needs to keep a certain cash reserve to respond to emergencies like this. So guys, that's what's happening here in Guyana. I'm just keeping you abreast of what's happening here. On Monday morning, the military is on top of it. Guyana is not going to be taken by surprise. The Guyanese military, the Guyana Defense Force, is on top of the exercise, the affair, the invasion.